Hey everyone, welcome back to the PC Perspective Podcast, which is what this is. If you happened upon this by mistake, turn back now.
Sorry.
It's episode 749. We're recording this on November 15, 2023. I'm not going back and doing this over again. I should though.
No, it's okay.
Okay, all right. Next person.
Keep it rolling. Keep it rolling.
I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Brett Van Sprumberg.
Abandon all hope, you who enter here. I'm Kent Burgess.
And I'm Sebastian Peak. If I didn't mention that before, you can, this is not going well. You can go to patreon.com/PCPer and throw money at us. Throw as much as you can, as fast as you can, digitally. Make a recurring payment that will save us all from extinction, internet extinction. Special thanks to A Penguin Kicks Down the Door.
Really appreciate
You didn't
that.
say that very forcefully.
I'm not sure. A penguin kicks down the door. It's like the an intro to a novel. It's
like he wants us to go to Linux or something.
I was going to say this.
Yeah.
It's a vicious rumor out there. Not true that Linux will only take advantage of 8 cores. That's the time slicing thing.
It's time for our most popular segment of the week. Josh, please tell us about
Is it really?
food. It is. I think it is. It's my favorite segment.
Well, I'll tell you what. Today was a treat. So here's the situation. My parents went off for a week's vacation. No. I had meetings all through the afternoon starting at noon. And so I took an early lunch. And not only did I take an early lunch, I knew the kids were all at home, so the dogs were taken care of. So I didn't have to go there. Had nothing to drop off. Had nothing to do. So I just went to Born in the Barn and actually ate there. I ate there. So the picture I have is, not molested by being wrapped up in tinfoil and crushed into a bag. No, this is the real deal. This is the Fatty Patty. It is a single patty, beer, caramelized onions, Swiss and cheddar cheese on rye bread. And let me tell you, this was fantastic. I'm not huge on patty melts, but this all came together. This was fantastic. The Swiss and the cheddar. Oh, the beer caramelized onions. I mean, They had the oniony flavor, but they were really sweet, and they had the malty goodness in there. It was a nicely done beef patty. So it wasn't huge. It wasn't the double patty monstrosity I usually get. But that rye bread, I don't know where they got the rye bread from, but it was fantastic. It was like, the ultimate Reuben that's not a Reuben. No, it's a rye patty melt. And
Looks like there's
I have fond memories. I'm still not hungry.
Or maybe some scrapings from the grill in with the onions.
No, didn't need it. Need it. It was outstanding as it was, and the fries were perfectly done, and it wasn't all mushed up and in strange lighting in my office room. No, this was the natural backlighting through windows. So the photography was tremendous. Well, it was better than average. But it was the Fatty Patty. I can't recommend it more. It was awesome. Beer caramelized onions, man. Beer.
Looks so good.
Let's move to the PC Perspective News Desk and ARC News.
No way.
Yes, this is big news too. Intel ARC, you may have heard of them. Intel, they're branching out of integrated graphics in a big way, and they have their own discrete graphics cards, which you can buy right now at places like Amazon and Newegg. And that's exciting enough as it is, but the software, they keep on writing new drivers for it, and there's yet another new driver. Minor update, a couple of bug fixes, no performance improvements necessarily, but if you look at the release notes,
Are you sure about that performance improvement?
I don't know. It's not saying like 20% better DirectX 11 performance or anything like that this time, but they fixed some issues. More Starfield fixes. They are closing in on completing their Starfield driver. They fixed the issue where in DX12 mode, there was flickering or color corruption. There's still some known issues out there, but hey, they're fixing stuff. They're still committed to it for now until they aren't committed to it anymore. And maybe AMD is discontinuing support for things like the 580, but Intel has a 580. So if you're a 580 owner, switch over to the Arc A580 for continued support. Think about that.
And slightly better performance.
Yeah.
Slightly.
Yeah, very slightly better performance, but at least the price tag is attractive-ish.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, enough of that.
I going into a different direction altogether, but still in the same area, because I know I've never done this before. If there's one thing that is ensuring that Arc may continue, it's the AI stuff, because not only are they supporting VDI through hardware without having to pay expensive licenses, but their Gaudi stuff, all of that utilizes Arc technology to do the AI. And I mean, AMD is looking at their MI300 series to be a $1 billion ramp up in the next couple of quarters. You can bet Intel is really looking at that. So it's nice that they are continuing software support, and they really should continue hardware support for multiple reasons. One of which is there is a large thing of machine learning. And I know that we have announcements from ARM, Microsoft, and AMD, all that just came out today, too, that we really probably should address, hopefully.
Next up in news, AMD has a big win because their Instinct MI300X accelerator, it's going to be an Azure virtual machine series optimized for AI.
This is comprised of 153 billion transistors on a single substrate, 5.2 terabytes a second of memory bandwidth.
What's up with the Infinity Fabric being less than a terabyte if the total memory bandwidth is 5.2?
It's because it's all the caches, man. They count all the caches. It's crap.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. But it's cDNA 3, not rDNA 3. Which is their compute optimized, which apparently does have some things that the RDNA 3 does not. But they have two. They got two flavors. There's the all graphics chip with lots of memory and whatnot, and then they've got the one that's part CCXs, CPUs and the graphics chips. And you'd think that those would be more popular, and they may in fact be in the future, but for right now, Microsoft is using these for their Azure, and that's all based on Xeon stuff, and there's some talk about NVLink in there as well, and I'm not entirely sure, but it's a big deal for AMD to be picked up by Microsoft. And in fact, Microsoft also announced, did we have that in here? I'm looking. Microsoft developed their own ARM superchip, Neoverse CCD. I can't remember the exact thing, but with ARM, Microsoft developed their own big superchip based on ARM Neoverse, and they're hoping to also power all of this stuff. That's their AI chip that is 105 billion transistors. It is another rather large chip. So AI is it's a big deal. And if you thought that this is just mining, it's not, because all of these big guys have bought into it hugely, because they actually have products and workloads that run really well on it, and there's a huge demand for them. So it's not a flash in the pan. I mean, we're probably going to get some downturn in that software won't be able to keep up with the hardware, and they'll have overproduced, and too much stuff that is laying dormant or underutilized. But for the most part, it's kind of a boom with machine learning. neural networks, these kind of models, there's just not enough horsepower right now in the world to fulfill the demand of these things. It's nuts how it's growing. And when Intel, AMD, NVIDIA, Microsoft all jump in with actual hardware that works, it's not just, some guy designed this mining ASIC and they're selling them for $2,500. It's a big deal.
Well, Josh, I hope that somehow we're able to leverage generative AI to assist us in integration of the blockchain into our metaverse experience.
Exactly.
So I'm still counting on that.
I can't wait till it gets control of the nuclear weapons. That's what I'm waiting for.
Well, we need to have AI develop more board yacht ape pictures.
Yeah.
That we can sell
NFTs were just a way to launder money.
No, apparently they're a way to go blind now.
Oh, okay.
That's true. Yep, UV light right in the face.
Yeah, let's just use EUV lights for mood lighting here.
Oh, it hurts. Look directly at the light. Look at the light.
Sunburn those retinas.
Yep. Wow, couldn't have happened.
Well, no, I guess it's just the cornea. The cornea is the
it's just cornea.
Yeah.
Sorry,
you can get it replaced. It's not fun.
Yeah, they're not going to take board ape pictures in replacement for payment for the surgery.
All right, let's move on. Next news story. This may shock you. You know how we've talked about how the 14th gen stuff from Intel is just the 13th gen kind of rebadged? Maybe
we did. Yeah.
It's binned a little bit for some higher clocks at times.
It's got new, better Intel dynamic tuning technology.
Okay. It's the same silicon, though.
I know. It's just that's the only good thing I can say about it.
All right. Well, via Hardware Unboxed, as reported here on Tech Power Up, and now on PC Perspectives podcast, Intel confirms APO feature not coming to 13th gen and 12th gen core processors. So their application performance optimization feature helps the Raptor Lake refresh have some better performance. They've showcased this best possible scenario in 2 games, I think.
Metro Exodus, which very, very new, Metro Rainbow Six Siege. It's going to be a boost there, so there's a lot of people who are going to take advantage of that.
So it looks nice on charts. It's only in a couple of games, and they're not allowing it to work on older hardware so that they can help sell newer hardware. Why would you give the old hardware the feature?
I just sense someone's going to get around this and enable it on older gens.
Eventually, yeah.
Kind of predict that.
Yeah.
Manipulate the processor.
You'll have to have an unsigned driver or some crap like that.
True.
Change Windows. Hate that.
But hey, everything old is new again. 384-bit memory buses.
Via videocards.com, new rumors suggest NVIDIA's RTX 50 series, the GB202 GPU, will use a 384-bit memory bus, GDDR7, so much bandwidth. Initially, the information was that the GPU would use a 512-bit bus, it says here, which has now been clarified. It's 384, which I guess puts it kind of at parity with what we currently have at the top.
Do you know what the last 512-bit card was? The 290X, and before that, the HD 2800 XT.
The 2800
was the Radeon XT. 7 not? I don't remember.
The Fury X 4096-bit.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's HBM.
Yeah.
But no, the regular GDDR was, I think, they're right, the 290. No, the 390X was, right? 390? Anyway, I have gotten us way off target, and I apologize for that.
Yeah, 512. Josh was right. The R9 390X 512-bit.
GT Wannabe is the one who originally, in our YouTube chat.
I have a 290X here somewhere in the basement.
Yeah, 290X.
This model, too. It's this reference model. That thing is loud under load.
Yeah.
And hot. Next news story. This is via Twitter. Harukaze5719 or something. They are posting, there's an article at ithome.com, which you have to translate if you do not speak the language. Silicon Motion SM2508. It's a Gen 5 SSD controller. 5/4, 8 channels, up to 8 terabytes. What's interesting about this is it says up to 3.5 watts.
Mm-hmm.
This is a big deal. We've seen some ridiculous cooling solutions being shipped with some PCIe Gen 5 SSDs. I'm sure you're aware if you follow this industry at all. So up to 3.5 watts would be a revelation. I'm guessing this is not as performant. Oh, I don't know. Maybe.
No, 2.5 million IOPS and 14.5 gig.
Okay,
Yeah,
so this has all the performance and probably about half the power. We've seen controllers that are 10 watts. I think.
Usually I think officially the PCI 5 are 6 to 8 watts. There may be some higher, but yeah, they have those massive coolers on them because they just get so stinking hot for that amount of space. And most of those are using a 12 nanometer process. Silicon Motion's actually using a 6 nanometer low power unit. So yeah, I mean, all the work is being done on that just by utilizing a smaller, more efficient, process node. And yeah, this is awesome. If they can get this out in a reasonable amount of time, it would be fantastic. So it's 4 ARM cores, R8s, which are higher performance, and then the one Cortex M0, which is super efficiency, super small. Yeah,
that'd be huge for PCIe 5.0. Drop the wattage.
This is entirely necessary for 5.0 because if you look at some of those cooling solutions for this stuff, they're just ludicrous for what is essentially a gum stick. This is considered a big heat sink for PCI 4.0 generation, and this is nothing as compared to what these fives are.
In some ways,
it's stuff that's this tall
and actively cooled.
As tall as a dim with fins on it.
Yeah.
And in some ways, the 5.0 was sort of a solution looking for a problem. Storage is going to finally meet it, where its bandwidth capabilities are strongest, and it's going to be amazing. I don't know what applications are going to... Oh, it's AI. I'm sorry. That's stupid. I should have just said AI applications are going to take advantage of it.
No. The people who use Optane for their primary drive and applications, it doesn't matter if it's Optane running on 3.0 or 4.0. It still just feels faster. I mean, it's like going to main memory. That's what the wonderful thing that Optane was. And that's something that, NAND just can't match. No matter how, how incredible your bandwidth figures are, that latency was less than 1/10 of that and that made a huge difference because you're usually not bandwidth constrained even at 3.0. For most applications. There have been a couple of things that I've noticed that write speeds like decompressing Steam files, loading something up on Steam for the first time, you're going to get better performance with 4.0 and 5.0. But that's like a corner case for the regular usage. But yeah, no, this is still, it's a positive thing. It's an 8-channel unit, runs fast, good IOPS, good bandwidth. It's something that's been needed.
For so many of these realized products, these solutions, they really rely on the amount of cache they're equipped with to take advantage of those speeds anyways. They're just not able to maintain that read and write throughput through to main storage. So there's where a lot of the limitations still lie, especially with consumer grade or even prosumer grade stuff.
Next, meet the last 2023 Hackaday Prize winners. Wait, this is not the last Hackaday prize. It's just the last winners
You're
from this
right
year.
on both counts. Like, they didn't really go into why, other than they said that they're going to do smaller ones going forwards. So they're not going to completely abandon it. But I have a feeling that just, there's been some things going on in the world lately that have really cut the funding to a lot of things. And so I have a feeling that's sort of what it is that they just couldn't get together enough sponsors to be able to do a huge set of prizes, because these guys are giving away tens of thousands of dollars to a variety of different winners. And then the grand prize is significantly larger. And they also used to have a grant with a place called Proto Labs, where one of the winners essentially got to go in to their laboratory, use all of their stuff, and just, make projects. So, not easy to pull off. And in this economy, I guess it's sort of come to an end, which is too bad. But like they say, it's not the end of their contests. They're still going to be doing these project things, but it'll probably just, instead of being one gigantic one with 5 different categories and a grand prize, just small little ones. But they've gone out really nicely. The grand prize is a refreshable Braille module. Now, I mean, and they obviously make reference to Sneakers, where Whistler was blind and using the Braille interface. But the thing is, even refurbished ones nowadays are thousands of dollars, which is just ridiculous. I mean, honestly, but apparently the way that they do it with MEMS and other things is just very expensive to do. So this project essentially takes a 3D printer, prints out a block and 6 little pins, which are then controlled with a set of gears, electromechanical motivators. But long story short, it's actually ridiculously cheap to make compared to a commercial version, and you can make it as much as you want, as big as you want. So if you only need, just to be able to read with your 2 fingers and just refresh it that way, that's fine. If you want an entire panel of it, no problem. This thing will scale up to do that. And, it just baffles me that is so hard to have designed previously. Like, no one's actually done that. And they also did, it was one of the runners-up, same sort of thing, except it's called Braille Wrap. And it's a quick, inexpensive way to print out Braille documents, which, again, is apparently ridiculously expensive to do. But with this 3D printed machine and a good source of a certain type of paper, it will happily punch out entire, projects in Braille. That's really nice to see, because it's one of the favorite things about the Hackaday Prize is that a lot of the time they're solving problems that, oh, well, who cares? There's a commercial solution for it, and they're already making lots of money. The giant AI recycle bin, on the other hand, I mean, it's an interesting idea. You toss in your recycling, and based on the noise it makes falling in, it will sort it for you. Not a household thing, but you bring this to a big convention, because now people are just tossing stuff in, and hey, you make a game of it, and the thing is just sorting and recycling it. So yeah, check out the various ones that they've done. If you live in a large apartment, definitely check out AutoDuct, which will bring down the entire building's heating bills and make everything a little more comfortable for pennies compared to what a professional solution would be. So yeah, it just it's sort of sad to see them go. They've gone on a really good showing, and I don't think this is the last time we'll be talking about it, because they will still have contests going forward. And as I mentioned before, if you haven't heard about the Hackaday Prize, you have to literally put up your entire project from start to beginning with materials list, with build. So any of these that are up there, you can go up and grab the STLs, grab the entire process, and build them for yourself. That's what this is all about.
Excellent. Hey, speaking of building things, what do you think would happen if you decided to build a small, large capacity SSD in a slim external enclosure? You use oversized components. You don't solder them to the board very well.
Mm-hmm.
And
I can't see anything going wrong with that.
apply a bunch of power to it. and it gets really, really hot.
Like heating and cooling cycles, like that would cause
like it gets hot,
thermal
it gets
expansion and
cold.
No
contraction.
problems.
Mhm.
It's fine.
Shouldn't cause a problem at all.
Yeah, so apparently the SanDisk Extreme Pro failures, there's no firmware fix for this when you have components literally being lifted off the
They
board.
implied
picture is
there
so
would
beautiful.
be.
Yeah, and then
They
they
implied there would be a firmware fix.
yeah,
for
they
this.
probably were just going to reduce the performance to try to limit heat, but there's not much you can do. I read this the other day. This is from 4 days ago, a story at Tom's Hardware, but the data recovery firm that's been doing a lot of these repairs, people's
Recoveries,
data for them, they've taken some interesting looking pictures of some rather shoddy work and damage to these components.
Technically there's heat paste on there, so that's nice, but
Yeah.
You know, they originally thought that maybe this was only going to affect the larger drives, and that's the one where they're sort of promising the firmware fix for their 4 terabyte series. And it's really affecting the 2s, the 3s, I think the 1s as well. They're showing components that are like coming apart or coming off of the board and making this an extremely difficult recovery process. One of the other interesting aspects of this is some of the later ones are actually showing a nod towards this problem with additional, I think, silastic compound, trying to keep the components in place with maybe some better soldering. The recovery company is also potentially blaming poor solder or poor soldering connections or some assembly process issue. Western Digital looks like they've tried to address this again with some more compound silastic that's on top of it or some more epoxy type. It's not working, and Western Digital is not talking. Unfortunately, they're still selling
them
these
off the shelves.
That's correct.
Don't keep selling these.
Yeah, why wasn't this recalled already? Just eat it. This is destroying what was left of your reputation. I guess lay people do not understand some of the issues that the industry has had with WD over the last few years. With
at least it's not Hitachi.
The TLDR on this is basically if you're currently rocking one of these SanDisk Extreme Pros in the 2, 3, or 4 terabyte range, copy everything off of that and get off of it. Really, it's unfortunately. This one's you're just gonna have to write off. It's too bad right now.
Stick it in the receipt in the corner somewhere for the eventual class action lawsuit that will come about.
You'll get some of your money back for sure.
More than likely.
It's time for Security Corner. A microcode patches incoming for Intel and AMD, as if we haven't heard this story before. This is a new story though.
I don't know anything guitar and cash wrap. Although Reptar, nice pick for that picture, Jeremy. Good call.
Some of us remember Nickelodeon. And when I read that Rugrats, Reptar, that was the first thing I thought of. And oddly enough, the first thing that came up in the Google search as well. So both of these, thankfully, are not easy to leverage. Neither have been spotted in the wild. And as a bonus, patching is not going to affect performance whatsoever. So that's really nice. We like to hear that, I'm going to patch and things don't get worse. I like this. Cache Warp is the AMD one. And pretty much everyone watching it isn't going to have to worry about it for their home machine because it affects SEV. Those running, servers, on the other hand, finding out that the secure encrypted virtualization service AMD has been touting for so long has some issues is not wonderful. But long story short, if you're running a VM, there is a way you can use you can hit the page table to force that VM to pull stale data from a memory cache, which could well be a secure token. So, boom, your unauthenticated session is now authenticated. You could use it to grab out.
Does this bust the hypervisor? Does this cross hypervisors or not?
It seems to, because it seems to be giving you access to the VM itself.
Oh, extra bad.
Yeah, but already the patches are going out. And lovely enough, it's not been spotted in the wild and hasn't affected anyone. Well, as far as we know. AMD put out a full thing. You can track down the actual project on GitHub for the proof of concept if you're curious. Now, Reptar, on the other hand, from Intel, originally it came out and it was just like, oh, yes, technically you could cause a system to hang or crash with this thing. That's not so bad. It's kind of sucks.
That's unpleasant. Just reboot, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but the problem is it does Sapphire Rapids, Alder Lake, and Raptor Lake. And then they sort of looked into it a bit and they realized that, wait, no, this isn't a 5-point something. There's a way to escalate privileges using the exact same vulnerability. So yeah, now that's going to be an 8-point something. And again, this
is a crash of VM game privileges. I'm very. I can't even speak about this one. This is terrible. It's so prevalent. And gain access to a VM for $1.50 a day, and crash everybody on a 32U server. That's nuts.
Yeah, no, and that's just when it got the 3.0. It went to 8.8 when it was, oh wait, and privilege escalation? Yeah, that's not so good. It's already, the patches are flowing out, so you don't have to worry about it too much as long as you patch occasionally. And by the time Intel has put one out, it's actually going to be fairly solid. This one you're going to have to read more up to because it's sort of a little bit esoteric in trying to figure out exactly how it works. But it's execution of an instruction that's encoded with a prefix that has already been used, so considered redundant, which can then make the system behave in unpredictable ways. So even if someone was hacking an unpatched system, it'd be sort of a flip of the coin of, do I get escalation or do I just crash it? I don't know. I'll try it. They'll reboot it. I can try again. And, you don't have to reboot for this patch either, which is nice for many system admins. Think of it. A microcode update, and you don't even have to reboot.
Seems wrong somehow.
It seems. I mean, I might just reboot because I want to bounce that server.
You probably should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sticking with the register and more security stories, Europe is ready to intercept and spy on your encrypted HTTPS connections.
This is a little esoteric, but the sort of the punchline is not. What the proposal actually is about is government issues certificate, or they're proposing that government in the EU is going to be the essential certificate authority and be able to issue end certificates, and the browsers must continue to accept them even if they've been compromised, or eventually, and here's the punchline, eventually set themselves up as a man in the middle for anybody else's endpoint. What that implies is that the government-issued certificate authority can issue a certificate for any other encrypted endpoint, meaning between you, an EU citizen, and Amazon or IBM or Costco or whatever it is you're buying from or having a connection to, and that includes potentially IPsec. That includes potentially IPsec. So between you and your university or your workplace, and the government is essentially setting itself up to be a perpetually accepted in-browser, unable to be kicked out, man-in-the-middle, quote-unquote, attacker, or in their case, interceptor of traffic between you and your endpoint. And the worry here is that this is potentially going to pass because it's a little bit subtle in the potential way that this could be abused. And of course, the worry is that
Rishi Sunak would actually like to really see it pass because he's that kind of guy.
Once one sizable government entity that's friendly to Western sphere of influences accepts something, the places like the United States sort of look at this and go, well, maybe that's a good idea. Why don't we try and do the same thing? And this is absolutely horrific from a privacy perspective. So again, the punchline is easy to understand, but the intricacies of certificate authority and certificate handling and man-in-the-middle attack is a little bit esoteric.
Finally, in Security Corner, in a first, cryptographic keys protecting SSH connections stolen in new attack.
Jeremy, you want to talk about this one, or do you want me to ramble on a bit?
Oh, I mean, you should ramble on because this is just so ironic.
Well, first of all, I don't want.
Okay, let me ask: is it like ironic or Alanis Morissette ironic?
It's a security feature being used to break into your machine, so yeah, it's fairly literal.
So that's obviously, well past Alanis Morissette.
Yeah.
Obviously, SSH connections are ubiquitously used all over the place consistently for remote access to all kinds of services. This is not a warning that the sky is falling and everything's broken. That's not exactly the case here. What this is illustrating is an interesting cryptographic and mathematical and computing system byproduct of how SSH and the key exchange actually works during handshaking. Occasionally, there are errors that crop up in this computation, and those are transmitted and retransmitted, and an agreed-upon handshake is finally arrived at between the service and the client.
And you and I would assume that error would be dumped and that it would not cause any issues whatsoever.
And most of the time, that's true. Most of the time, that's true. What the playback or the analysis of watching this handshake of, hey, I didn't get that right. Oh, let me retransmit that, is the difference between the bad key or the bad handshake and the good handshake. Analysis has allowed the sort of interpolation of, hey, the difference between these two is finally allowing us to extract one of the prime numbers that is associated with the true secret key that's being not exchanged between these two entities. And that's the secret. It's not the public part. It's the secret part. And then once it's determined that based upon the fact that this is an RSA exchanged key, of which it's used by about a third of the internet connections using SSH, once that's utilized, you can sort of fuzz the server a little bit with some attempts on this port or this connection, and eventually extract the remainder that allows you to fully determine all of the primes that went into building the key and back your way into generating the secret key. Then you essentially own that connection. You can tap into it. If you can watch it, you can essentially decrypt it at that point. And that is the very rudimentary, sort of dumbed down aspect of this. It's very, very difficult to do. Only a certain number of the billions of connections, only a very small number of them are suspected. 1 in a million expose the private key. Yeah, this is not very easy to do, and it's only about certain RSA keys. And it's, again, you need to have a cryptographic mathematical computation that fails like a bit check or a transmit check or an in-memory check that needs to retransmit it. So this isn't the sky's falling, but it is a crack in the armor. What they should probably do is adopt some of what went into TLS 1.3. Senses that cryptographic handshake errors are obscured and not detectable. So there's probably a change coming to SSH here in the next year or so to sort of sidestep this problem. But it is interesting and doable.
Yeah. And pretty much undetectable because it's all passive.
Yes. It's completely passive analysis. And the way they determined this is they had several million captures of packet captures of transactions happening on the internet, and they sort of replayed that and took a look at what was happening and backed their way into figuring out these errors, working an algorithm on it, and discovering the primes.
And it will probably way too much watching bloody Netflix over freaking VPN.
Yeah. Well, that's way too much math for the people who normally watch the show.
Yeah, let's get back into gaming and let's talk about gaming, the economy, the result of the economy. It's gaming
passive
quick
analysis.
hits. Starting with the exciting story about layoffs. Digital Bros lays off 30% of their staff, but apparently they used a pretty bad excuse for this.
Everyone's laying everyone off, right? CD Projekt Red dumped a bunch of them. Microsoft, several thousand, I think it was. Epic, hundreds. So we know budget cuts are coming, and we know that someone in the boardroom is saying, don't worry, when crunch time comes, We'll just use ChatGPT to finish off the rest of the code. Everything will come out perfect. We'll be fine. We don't need those extra programmers. But the problem with Digital Bros, who owns 505 Games, said, well, we're reducing staffing because, gamers are just uncomfortable with new IP. They don't want to experience like a new game. They just want a rehash of something they've already played. They want a sequel to something or a reboot of an old game that they've done. Like Death Stranding, the guys who ported Death Stranding over to the PC and saw amazing profits off of that are now looking at us and saying, no, you know what? You're too dumb to understand new IP. We're just going to recycle our old shite and you'll be happy with it. That's why we fired everyone. It's your fault for not liking new IP. And like that is, in bird culture, known as a dick move. Sorry. If you're laying people off, fine. Just do it. Don't try and blame it on us saying that, oh no, they just want a set of Corsa meets Dirt Rally. They just want something they're comfortable with. This is why movies are awful to go to. This is why gaming is going to get a little bit annoying over the next year or two. Because everyone is sort of saying, no, we don't want to risk any investment on a new IP.
Are you saying you didn't like Everything Everywhere All at Once?
Okay, but that was new IP.
It was good, though.
Michelle was great. Oh, I thoroughly enjoyed that. Yeah.
Good show. Yeah.
All right.
She was fun. But telling me that I don't like that, and that's why you're not going to give me new movies like it?
Well, people just want free.
Don't worry.
The survey says people just want free stuff. Amazon says we've listened to our customers. We know delivering free games every month is what they want most. So Amazon Games has laid off 180 people because they just give away existing games.
I think this was like some of the Twitch crew as well from, I guess they were running, what was it called? Crown Channel. And they had sort of backed this game growth initiative to kind of bootstrap some gaming stuff. That's all going away. It's like a couple hundred people. Sad. What's with the gaming industry? What's going on?
Oh. And it's got
Salvation.
Fallout too. I mean, The Escapist got gutted. Mm-hmm. And one of the other ones too. So now they're starting their own things. Second Wind, and I forget what the other one is. So yeah, no, it's just sort of everyone's falling out of it.
Here's kind of the thing. If you have small creators and they're able to monetize it, they never, run into thing of, hey, we're hiring, 30% administration because we need people to handle all this other stuff. I mean, it's like you grow too big and become too top heavy, and then they shed the creators that are actually making you money. Doesn't it make sense that way?
Well, but it will if we hire another manager to
exactly
give a larger overview of the entire problem, and someone to supervise them.
Yeah,
and another HR rep to make sure that they're comfortable
in compliance. Exactly.
Yes. I think you guys are missing the point here. Prime Gaming, the free games live on. Free games.
That's what matters.
All.
Yeah,
it only costs 180 people their livelihood. We've got games.
We've asked people. They said this matters.
When Valve said that the Steam Deck wasn't going to be replaced for 2 or 3 years, they didn't say they weren't going to pull a Nintendo and release an OLED version of it, and they have. And it's kind of disconcerting website here.
Coming tomorrow.
I don't like this website at all. I don't like that.
So yeah, brighter colors, blacker blacks. They're describing OLED all right. We've seen it from the PlayStation Vita. We've seen it, of course, later from Nintendo, who invented OLED in handhelds, of course. People don't remember the Vita. And now we have it from Valve, where you have a better experience. But hey, it's not just a screen, though. It's faster downloads. It's better battery life. It's a lighter and cooler running handheld. It's just better in every way.
And that Saint Bernard is really impressed. Well,
I was going to say that dog is digitally enhanced. Oh, wait, no.
It's like, okay, I'm looking at these two. The Steam Deck OLED is like getting a Switch, and the Steam Deck LCD is like playing with a Wii U. I mean,
yeah, you save $200.
it's cheaper, it's chunky, and has terrible battery life, and the screen isn't very good, but...
Okay, I've got to know how, when you say Wii U, you don't just keep saying it like a siren.
I think it's something called maturity, Josh.
I'm sorry, I have none of that here. None.
I cannot unhear that. I cannot unhear that.
Didn't Steve Burke do a teardown of the new Steam Deck? Just go to youtube.com and go to Gamers Nexus channel and look at a teardown of the new hardware and learn something and not listen to
and
us.
appreciate their new website design, which looks a lot better than it used to.
I haven't looked at the new site yet. Let's talk about the Steam hardware survey. Everybody loves looking at this and wondering where on earth are the AMD
how is
graphics
1024
cards.
doing?
Well, let's see. Well, first of all, we're looking at graphics cards.
Okay.
All video cards. Number one is the 3060, which of course took the place of the 1060 and will probably be there for the next 3 years.
Finally, it's really becoming, resurgent at more
the
than
2060 is next. Interesting.
It's almost
3%.
10% of all users surveyed
and climbing.
3060.
I want to know where people are buying new 3060s. I guess.
What do you mean?
They're all new
second hand.
They're $269 for a 3060 12 gig.
That's a lot of gigs.
I'd say the same for the 2060 as well. Also seeing a boost at the
2060
in the
only has
Steam hardware.
6 gigs though. That's not
Yep.
enough.
And
No, the Super
1060
has 8.
No, yes, it's right. 'Cause the
2060
2060 Super is a 2070. That's right.
Yeah.
The 1060 also seeing a boost in the hardware survey of additional users.
That's just strange.
really,
I feel like that's just the plus minus
noise.
on. Yeah, that's
noise.
okay. So let's scroll down, and we have of
it's
course
a 60
integrated.
It's a 60s food chain at the top. So that's all I wanted to point out.
So if you scroll down
there's still
far
580s.
enough, you'll start to see things like AMD Radeon graphics, just generic because it's just an APU, probably in a cheap laptop. Then
And
Intel
more of that
Iris
in the Z.
XE graphics. It
XE.
just started showing up. They're weird. There was nothing, and then in October there was 1.4% of the market.
Yeah.
Intel UHD graphics, of course, and then finally a dedicated, discrete AMD Radeon graphics card, and it's none other than the RX 580.
580.
Oh no!
Nearly 0.75% of survey respondents have a 580.
I feel there's some bad news coming for the RX 580 users as well as the Vega users, and really all of the RX.
It's good news for AMD because then there'll be more of these 6600 owners. Because
hey, look at that 6700 XT.
Look at that.
Yeah.
That really has been one of the better deals in the past 2 years.
0.53%.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It's on a
I'm
downward
still rocking the
momentum right now.
750 Ti.
Anybody who thinks that AMD has a big presence in PC hardware,
Yeah. You just look at the
Steam hardware
logos.
survey. It seems like it could be biased. There have been people who've questioned the validity of this in the past. Something about internet cafes.
Has ARC made it on yet?
Are you kidding me?
That-
Come on.
That's what
at
I
the
was
very, very
looking
bottom?
for, and
Is
I'm
it like
Let's
no?
get serious. Come on, Jeremy.
I was hoping.
Haswell?
There are more Intel Ivy
Haswell?
Bridge integrated
I forgot.
GPUs than ARC graphics. Come on.
So it
That's
still
a
falls
shame.
under other. Fair.
Anyway, we haven't looked at this in months, so it's fun to look at this every 5 or 6 months or so.
But
and see
no,
what's
what's the
going on with
resolutions?
GPUs.
The important thing is, of course, what's going on with people's monitors, and that was just graphics cards. You can look at processor by manufacturer, of which, and here's
what's
another
the
thing.
resolutions?
Here's another thing. If you look at the processor by manufacturer, which is showing 73, almost 74% Intel,
Yeah. It's mobile gaming.
these are laptops.
Yeah.
That's
These are
why
laptops.
it is the way that it is. Okay.
There's also a lot of people still gaming on very old hardware. I mean, the fact that Haswell and Ivy Bridge are still present on that chart you just showed is evidence of that.
Sad evidence, but yes.
Primary.
True, but
Oh man, primary display
1920 by 1080.
resolution. 1080p monitors are 59%. But look at this, 1440, 23%. They've become mainstream. Remember when that was 4%? That wasn't that long ago.
Yes. Nice.
Yeah. That's a huge gain for them.
The 2A fun is really making
What?
showing.
There was some strange noise there. What were you saying?
What was that?
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
Don't know. Apologize. I was just saying the 2K monitor is finally making a big showing.
You don't want to know what was going on underneath Brett's desk. As he made that point.
2.59%
I don't know
for
what
4K or
like.
UHD monitors. 3440 by 1440, 1.56%.
Like to see that.
Okay, 3.24% are at 1366 by 768.
Ouch.
It's laptops. It's laptops.
Yeah.
Isn't that an IBM ThinkPad?
1360 by 768 is pretty weird, but hey, you do you.
All right. How about if we shift over to the reviews portion of our podcast? This will be brief because honestly, it's a memory review, and those are generally not very compelling for podcast listeners.
It's pretty.
But the Kingston Fury Renegade RGB DDR5 memory under consideration is interesting because it's a 96 gigabyte kit that only has 2 DIMMs. Now, you can be uncivilized. Wow. You can be a heathen and install 3 32 gigabyte DIMMs in your system, which makes me cringe, but it's possible. And you can get to 96 that way. But what if you do it with only 2 DIMMs? And all you have to do, you put them in, you enable XMP, and you reboot. And that's it. 2 DIMMs, 96 gigs. It's incredible. And it's that, I don't know why they call it non-binary, because clearly they're talking about the density. It's 24 gigabit rather than 16 gigabit DRAM density. That's all it means.
You are my density.
And even though we had first been introduced to this concept late last year, like November, we finally started seeing BIOS updates to enable support. Intel, we saw updates begin in February. AMD followed in May. There are various vendors starting to push out some BIOS revisions, and now pretty much everybody can enjoy 24 and 48 gigabyte modules.
Even the AMD users?
Yeah. AMD users since May. Look at this.
Think about the fact that we're looking at a 2DIMM kit with 96 gigabytes. That's fantastic. Just unthinkable just a few years ago.
Yes. And actually really easy to set up, very reliable.
Hey, my Windows 3.1, it ran on 6 megabytes memory.
Mm-hmm.
Did great.
Which was no joke back in that day, by the way. If you had more than 4 megabytes of memory in the early 1990s
you
like
were
that,
living the dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when we were starting to go to 64-bit OS, and it was, well, with 64-bit, you won't be limited to 4 gigs of RAM. And at that time, a lot of people were going, well, why would we ever need more than 4 gigs of RAM?
Go forward.
It was only 3.28 addressable, so get it right, man.
Yeah.
I just like to see the extended RAM announcement during boot, so that was exciting.
Oh yeah,
Ooh, I have extended RAM.
Yeah, my BIOS just counting up and counting up.
Yeah, the little
Sure
ticking sound.
Counting up.
Ooh, very exciting. I am so tech. Ooh.
No, that's when you hit the escape key, because that just takes so long. You have a gigabyte of memory on an old board. It takes forever.
You watched it a few times, and then it was like, yeah, let's just skip that.
Okay.
Vic 20. Gavin asks 3.5K free after it unpacked the ROM. Sweet.
Well, at least he wasn't a call me.
All right. Well, beyond the hefty capacity is the speed of these DIMMs, as I wrote in this review, which are rated for 6,400 megatransfers per second at a cast latency of 32. Now, this is not really an AMD suitable kit. It's 1.4 volts. That's not a good idea. Have no fear. There was an AMD appropriate version. It's 6,000 megatransfers, 1.35 volts. Still 96 gigs, still, 248 gigabyte modules. So check out that kit. The part numbers are in the review. Although I can't easily find these for sale yet, and I'm hoping the listings that I found so far have inflated MSRPs, as I will mention here in a minute, because this is not inexpensive for the privilege of 96 gigs on 2 DIMMs. I did some performance testing, which is always exciting. I did AIDA64 so you can see scaling, and then I did PC Mark 10 so you can see that it doesn't really scale in real world applications. Slight edge. I mean, in fairness, this Fury Renegade kit did win at 6,200 versus a 5,600 kit I had and baseline 4,800, but only by a slight margin. We're talking about saving entire seconds over the course of several days, and it may not be worth it to you. To me, it's all about the convenience of the capacity. So I would get a lower clocked kit myself. I get that 6,000 kit. I could go back and forth between my AMD systems and Intel systems and never run out of RAM. You will never need more than 96 gigabytes of memory. You heard it here first. You will never need more than 96 gigabytes of system memory.
We're putting a stake in the ground here at PCPer. You will never need more than 96 gigabytes of RAM.
Bront Spuenberg said it.
That's right.
And you can take that to the bank.
I feel like I seconded it, but either way.
Okay. So here's the problem. I went around looking for this. I searched for the model number. I looked on Kingston's website trying to find a listing for it for sale on their own web store, which doesn't exist yet. They only wanted to sell 16 and 32 gigabyte modules. So I finally found a listing at ProVantage, and it's $390.
They're in Florida. I've bought a few things from them over the years, and
as have I.
Yeah.
You can sometimes find it at ProVantage when you can't find it anywhere else. Just a little pro tip there. It's been around for a long time. Their website looks like it too. It's like a blast from the past.
It looks like one of my favorite old computer stores up here in Vancouver, which is Attic Technologies.
Okay.
And it was almost a text-only website. But you could get stuff there, and you get a discount for cash, but they'd certainly take a credit card. Unless you didn't know what you wanted, in which case they would just taunt you, yell at you, and then kick you out of the store.
I'm a little worried that it says special order, so it's not in stock here either. So maybe I'm jumping the gun on this. This is not memory that was sent to us for review specifically. It's memory that was in the Falcon Northwest Talon 14th Gen system. And I said, it was brand new. Kelt said that, we have this new, stuff from Kingston. It's 96 gigs on 2 DIMMs. So I yanked it out of there and did a review. And now I'm realizing that it's kind of not really available yet. So hopefully someday soon, you too can have 96
That's
gigabytes.
the total paper launch, man.
Sounds like the pre-release
like
to the builders.
3090s and 3080s. It's all a paper launch.
But let's move on to picks of the week. Josh, please get us started.
Yay.
Picks of the week.
Yeah,
okay,
do it.
So, the picks.
Head
the
on.
humanity.
Pain.
Apply directly to
My
the
eyes,
forehead.
it hurts.
Head on. Apply directly
So
to the
anyway,
forehead.
I have a rather interesting situation. It's not actually all that interesting. In fact, it's pretty boring. But I have a PC out in my living room that my wife thoroughly objects to because it's kind of big, and it's right next to my racing cockpit that she really objects to.
Because it's pretty big, too.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
And in the
room.
living room. And the living
Yeah,
room.
and so I thought I'm going to try to trick this Realtek digital audio into thinking it's a 5.1 surround, and whatever I did, it just didn't work. And then I found out about some potential hacks and stuff that you could do, but you'd have to do unsigned drivers from a guy that you download from Hong Kong, and I just didn't feel
Sounds
like
fine.
doing that because I wanted really true 5.1 sound when I'm playing EA Sports WRC, which came out a few weeks ago, and I talked about. And I want to hear those rocks kicking up on into the floor from the gravel stages in full surround. But I wasn't getting that. And so I was looking around, and there's not nearly as many Dolby Live and DTS Connect encoding sound cards around anymore. But there was one, and it's a classic. Yep. It's the Creative Sound Blaster ZSE. And it's $99, which is not inexpensive. But at the same time, if you just want something that works for your solution, this does it. I mean, this thing was originally in the first form.
Plugs on it?
Yes, one optical in and one optical out.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
And this was originally released in 2012. So that gives you an idea of the hardware. I mean, analog performance is not fantastic. It's got,
Josh,
kind of the
that just
dual.
mean it peaked. It peaked at 2012. You can't be made any better.
Well, something like that. No, actually, they had a second edition in 2019.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Human
they
hearing
have
hasn't
actually
improved that much in the last 11 years.
What has improved is the software, because the one thing that Creative has done horribly through many years was the Creative bloat. And their driver is only 141 megabytes. Compare that to any graphics driver right now, and you'll see that obviously they're doing well. They don't update their drivers very much. Anyway, this is from 2021 that I've got, and it's the very latest. However, it works, and it works really well, and it just kind of works. And so obviously they've done something right. And if you need a DTS Connect or Dolby Digital Live, real-time encoding sound card, and not willing to pay Microsoft Store crazy amounts of money, or try to find some motherboard that has the Realtek support for this kind of encoding, which is a giant pain you can't do, just get one of these for $99. All your troubles are gone. It works. It doesn't take up much space. It's a single PCIe 1X slot, and it just works. No external power needed, which is nice.
But you don't have to manually set the interrupts either?
Exactly.
No.
That's just weird.
More IRQs.
I was thinking about this today for some reason, just because I'm a strange person, but the complaining about IRQs and addresses and stuff, like, there weren't that many to remember. There's so many IRQs.
PCIe
like
slot 5 IRQ, or no, PCIe slot 3 IRQ 5.
IRQ 5 or 7 for most sound cards. Gravis ultrasounds were a little bit different. I think by default it was like 11.
And Turtle Beach was their own little thing.
It's like, if you just remember, like, there's a certain number of addresses that are reserved. There's, like, if you have your parallel port enabled, you can turn that off in the BIOS if you want to gain more, turn off serial ports.
Yeah, always turn off
using
those
port.
serial ports.
Yeah, you don't need them
Always.
all. Come on. Once you moved on to a board that had PS2 mouse and keyboard, most people could go without the serial port.
Well, I still needed my Joy port, though.
That was on the sound card.
Yeah, it was.
All right.
So my main machine has the Sound Blaster E5 Plus, and that's
wow.
actually a really good sounding. It's got the Sabre, ESS Sabre DAX in there, and it's probably one of the best sound cards I've had. Again, the driver's old, but it seems to work with everything without a problem. Maybe that's a Windows thing, because that whole audio stack was converted from, hardware stuff to Windows. But anyway, regardless, it's solid for the price. And I mean, sound cards are getting rare these days. it's nice that somebody still has something.
Well, they're just getting external these days, and even the internal
Yeah, it's
ones,
all
like when
USB DACs.
yeah, when briefly EVGA had the new audio sound cards.
All right.
Those were USB sound cards with a bridge chip and on a US like on a PCI Express card. Even those, they're all external now. So going back in time to a dedicated PCIe is not necessarily a bad thing.
And a moment of silence for Enforce 2.
It's still weird to
Soundstorm
install
is great.
Windows on a system and have it find an NVIDIA sound device. As those did. Okay. Jeremy, your pick.
Yeah, well, it ain't new, but for Canada, this is a shockingly affordable price for a 6950 XT, which is still a solid card that is going to do you just about anything you need. Like, I paid more than that for a 6800. So, if you're in Canada and you're shopping around, there are some decent deals. Because if you want an NVIDIA card, honestly, add a 1 to the front of that for the equivalent, unfortunately, still. They are obnoxiously expensive, but both Josh and I love the Merc series. And $800 Canadian money for a 6950 XT, nicely overclocked, is really a good deal.
And you guys get screwed over when it comes to pricing. It's not just the conversion rate, it's the fact that it's just more expensive in general for
Yes.
Canadians.
I mean, someone's got to pay for the medical system.
The
better than the
$7.99
alternative,
Canadian currently equals about $583 US, which is not a bad price for that card.
That's actually not
try
now.
and find that for down there for
Probably
a 6950 XT.
Can't.
And
There was a brief
Yeah, it's
time.
$5.99 at least.
I
Yeah, it's
paid a little
$5.99.
bit more. I paid a little bit more for my 59 or my 6950 XT at Micro Center. Not a whole lot more, maybe about $629 or something like that when I bought it.
Do you still have that box within hand's reach that you can dig it out?
Please tell me you do.
Unfortunately,
Is that packed away? Is that in a storage unit
He does,
somewhere?
but it's a giant box and it's at the very bottom of it.
It's upsetting. Not being in your old room is upsetting. It's there. Where's the monitor behind you? Where's the 6950 XT Red Devil?
I'm noticing there's a lot of upset people about that, and it's going to be a little bit of time before we can get back to that, but we will.
Yeah.
We'll get back to that.
Excuses.
I know.
Anyways, what's your pick?
Yeah.
Oh, I have a very straightforward pick. No superlatives, nothing really to talk about. If you'd like a power supply to power your NVIDIA graphics card that is completely power hungry in a mad world sort of way, you're going to want 1000 watt plus. Why not get the Be Quiet variant with this 1200 watt power supply for only $149?
That is good for
This
1200 watts.
Man, that is a freaking
Indeed.
steal.
1200 watts.
Let me just
gold.
repeat that.
PCIe
This is
5.
Be Quiet, a purveyor of fine power supplies, for $149. This is about $50 off. ATX 3.0, 1200 watts. Let me just repeat that. 1200 watts. It's a fantastic deal.
Look, the 1000 watt is $15 more.
Correct.
You'd be a fool not to get the 1200 watt model.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, Be Quiet is a little bit funky on their wiring. It's no Corsair, in the world that you may be used to, but it's very, very capable. And
What does that mean,
indeed
the
very, very
funky
quiet.
wiring? Have you
Yes.
you've used these?
Experienced both, and where you see the Corsair power supply often has like a squarish connector in many places. The Be Quiet is normally like the pins are a little bit more linear, a little bit more laid out.
I don't know why that would matter. It's just the stuff that's coming out of the back of the power supply.
It kind of doesn't, but if you're used to looking
doesn't
at
at
power
all.
supplies
As a matter of fact,
and
the
seeing it in a
connectors that
particular
connect
way,
to, like on the
it's a little
component
different.
side are the same. You're just saying that they're
Totally
a little
the
funky
same.
looking on the unit itself. Okay.
Actually correct. Yes.
A little
wonder who
more
makes
expensive if
this.
you want custom cables.
I wonder if this is like an
Because Cable Mod
FSD.
doesn't sell like
Kent
pre-made
is
kits
correct.
for the. Yeah.
If you want custom cables for the Be Quiet, is it slightly more expensive because it doesn't
Just
follow
use
the
cable
particular
extensions. Nobody will know. Put it all behind
Like an
the back.
NVIDIA Whooper that doesn't melt.
Or in-sourced customs. I highly recommend them.
Be quiet to their supplier.
Customs, is that what you said?
In-sourced custom cables, yes.
In-source. I-N, I think, right?
E-N. E-N.
Oh, E-N.
Sounds like somebody's got a pick for next week.
All right. Yeah,
I had him as a pick some time ago, and I've used him for cables a couple of times since then, and he does a fantastic job. Not my pick, but since the topic came up.
Hey, speaking of picks. Oh, by the way, go out and buy that power supply.
You're going to pretend to have a pick, aren't you?
No, I have a pick. This is a fantastic deal. 48-inch LG OLED.
What?
$750 off at Best Buy. $549.
Oh, wow.
My gosh.
$549. If you go on Amazon and look for 48-inch OLEDs, they start at about $1,000.
That's an A2. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. You're not going to get the absolute latest. And there's going to be some snobs out there that talk about the brightness and the features.
No.
Listen.
No.
Listen.
That's good.
How much extra do you pay if you want like a dumb TV? If
you can't even buy one.
How much?
You can't buy one.
No, but honestly, I have an LG OLED as well. You go into the settings, you turn off the network stuff. It never even shows up.
That's correct.
I'm not connected to the internet with it. I don't run any of the WebOS apps. As quaint as that is.
How am I going to get my...
how do you update your firmware?
I don't.
How do you update? You don't update your firmware.
I don't care. The TV works. It's worked since 2016, October 2016.
When
7
it's
years
conspiring with your microwave and your
service.
fridge to take over.
I cry for the susceptibility of hacking your firmware.
It's not online.
Presents.
The TV's not online. Unless data can travel through the HDMI cable.
Okay.
TV's not online.
I mean, that's sort of what it does.
Yeah, well, you tell me when there's finally some successful hack where people's living room TVs are being controlled through HDMI, like consumer electronics control. Then maybe.
Oh, it'll happen.
Oh, please. People air gap systems now.
LG is not sending out firmware updates to the 2016 E series models anymore, I don't think.
Okay.
Calm down. It's okay. It's okay to run old. Hey, just PSA. This is the rest of my pick. It's okay to run old firmware. It's okay to run out-of-date operating systems. Do it. Be smart. Don't go to weird websites. Live your life.
For God's sakes, don't plug it into the internet.
Don't update every single test build that comes out of Windows 11, and then you have problems. If you have mission-critical equipment, stuff that you need to use every day, and it works right now, why would you say, oh, I'll beta test the next thing? Hey, there's a new operating system version for my phone. Let me install it on the thing that I need to receive phone calls on from my son's school and, make, important decisions and respond to emails. No, don't do it. All right. That's it. That's my pick. It's a ridiculous deal. There's a lot of Black Friday and November stuff going on right now. I mean, it's in November anyway, but you know what I'm saying? Like all month long.
Don't succumb to the hype.
And I went to Best Buy earlier looking
it's not just
around.
That. They're doing Black Friday up here in Canada, and we don't even have Black Friday. We've already done Thanksgiving.
It's called The Economy Sucks. Lending rates are insane. People don't want to get new credit cards. They don't have any money.
So let's go into
let's mark down the crap we can't sell, like old TVs. TVs have gotten stupid cheap. I was looking at Sam's Club, and it's like the 65-inch Samsung and LG TVs are like $499, but then you move up to a 70-inch and it's like $549. It's like $50 and you have a 70-inch, and then 75-inch TVs are like another $50 more. Like, this is insane. Since when can you buy a 75-inch TV for like $650?
You can't.
You can. You can now in 2023.
Now's the time.
Okay.
55-inch for $250. That's nuts.
Yeah. 55 has become the new 32. They're just like the embarrassing little cheap TVs in the center aisle at Walmart. Kent.
So after many years of watching Razer Synapse continue to launch more and more tasks in my task manager and continue using more and more RAM, I decided to move away from Razer recently. I've tried a few different mice at this point. I've not found anything I really, really like yet. But a couple of the SteelSeries mice I liked, but they didn't slide very well. Even with the Teflon feet, they just didn't feel very good on the mouse pads. And so I went online, I did a little searching, and I then went to Amazon and picked up a set of the glass mouse feet. And, it's a different experience. It's like sliding your mouse around an air hockey table now. It is super smooth, just almost no friction at all on a soft mouse pad. Tried it on a couple of different mouse pads. They feel fantastic. They make these for most popular mice. They even make some universal dots you can use. I highly recommend them. They're not on sale or anything at the moment, but I was very impressed with the experience of these glass mouse feet.
Super glide. I like the air hockey table analogy, though. It makes me want to buy it.
It's like a condom for your mouse.
Okay. Josh is back.
It's easy glide.
He missed that.
Yeah.
He missed that. I'm not repeating it though.
No. Let's see. Is that it? That's it. That's the end of our show notes.
Oh God.
Oh.
Well.
Oh, mouse skates.
Hi, Josh.
It made me have to urinate.
Well, I think it's that time. It's that time again. That time where we all say goodbye. We think about the week that was, the podcast that was, the time we've shared together. We're all living together on this planet, and we all have to.
Time well spent.
Sometimes we have to share those intimate moments where we go into Best Buy or Walmart or any place that sells inferior, undersized televisions and
may not
use
have
them as toilet
security.
paper.
Perhaps we're just looking for super glide for our mice, where there's no friction whatsoever.
You missed it, Josh. The friction-free mouse condom.
The feel is slightly reduced, though, in the end.
Well, that's always the drawback, isn't it?